this past weekend. All right, let's crack open a can of this, butt magic. You felt that, huh? Man, that felt like a beautiful, just like a big black girl just jumped on my back and just dove just down my throat into my soul. There at the end on that hitter riff. Let's catch another sniff of this. Man, that thing was tight. That note was tight, man. Like they trying to put that note in your butt. That note was, that thing, you got to really do some work to get that thing out into the world. The tightness of that note. Happy Thursday, guys. Happy Thursday afternoon. Or Thursday morning, actually. It's going to be Thursday morning. And I am here in America. I'm coming to you live from Los Angeles, California. It's Thursday, January 18, in the year 2018. That's what I need sometimes, just that. Stop the merry-go-round. There used to be so much more peace in our everyday lives. And some people might not remember that. If you're, and I'm aging myself here, but whatever, dude. You know what I'm saying? I'll date your grandmother's frickin' friend. And if there used to be so much peace. You had so much peace. We're not as many I'm talking about when I was a child. And you would get home and there wasn't as many electronics buzzing. And there weren't as many, everybody wasn't recording everything. And there just wasn't, there was more peace. Man, I have a tough time these days getting peace. That's what that's what I find. I would suck, I'll suck a nap out of, I'll suck a comfortable nap out of, or I'll suck a quiet afternoon out of somebody's yak. You feel me? I will suck somebody's yak for, a couple hours of peace and quiet. That's what it's going to come to. That's what it's going to come to. You're going to be walking, through the Tenderloin district or one of these, seedy areas in a certain city, and somebody's going to be like, hey, come here, man. How about you, how about you let me suck your dick for a little peace and quiet? That's going to be the drug, because it used to be so much more peaceful. And I think if you're, I'm 37, I'm an adult male. And if you're 20, and this is going to sound, I just sound probably like an old guy. That's what I sound like. Oh, the old guy telling us things used to be so quiet, but it used to be so much more relaxing. I picked up a book yesterday. Have you tried to open a book and look? You're like, what the fuck? This is the worst video ever. Every time I look at a book, I'm like, it is hard. It's just my ability to be patient with my ability to be patient is is decimated. It's decimated. I have a tough time. But yeah, I picked up a book yesterday, like an old paperback. Wasn't even shiny or fancy. And I'm just like, dang, this is pretty sad. And I like to read. I like to absorb. And here I am thinking that. So I just wonder, what is this? What does it look like here in the next 10 years? You know, when there's, you know, when it has to be video, or your brain, it's like, it's too slow. Because I also notice things that are too slow for me now. Like if I call someone's phone number and it doesn't go straight to voicemail, but it has that thing where it's like, to leave a voice message, press 1. To have the caller return your something or other, press 2. If it's not just, you know, hey, it's John, you meet your cell phone, call me back, beep. If it's not that, I get pissed. Because I'm impatient. I don't want to deal with that extra 7 seconds of bullshit that I already have heard a million times. And then I don't even want to leave the message. Then I don't even want to fucking talk to John anymore. Because I don't like the bullshit that he's putting between us. I don't like, you know, suddenly I'm angry at John. Because he doesn't have the machinery or the software that I vibe with the most. And I just get, and it's me. Yeah, I know it's me. You know, I could go live in the woods or live in a tent or take more hikes or do other things that would, you know, get me out of that realm, you know, and take those, you know, and get those, you know, those, what are those things that stick to a boat? Scallops. And get those scallops off my body. You know, because I let those scallops start to build up by not being out in nature. By not swimming, you know, by not stepping in a puddle or fucking, you know, getting a couple pats of mud and putting them on your neck or putting them on your back. And just being a part of nature and slowing it down. You know, I remember the first time I didn't really go camping. I got locked out of the house. And, you know, me and my brother slept under the eave of the house, you know, by the porch. And, dude, there was so much bullshit down under there. And, you know, we ended up actually finding a plumbing problem that we had. My mother didn't know we had it, and it, you know, almost really broke us as a family financially once we found that. But, you know, but it was interesting just being outside for a little while, I remember as a kid, and slowing it down. You know, I even just remember that. I do remember a couple of moments of how quiet it was. You know, it was also quiet, I found, whenever I was young. It was quiet. You know, I talked about this on last week's episode, that it was quiet when my family would get together when the power went out. And that was one time in my home that there was a lot of peace in the air when the power went out when I was a child, because, you know, because you got together. You got together. Where are you? Suddenly you needed each other. There was a commonality. You know, because my family didn't have a strong family. There was no familial bond. There was none of that shit. You know, it was just felt like a rescue center. And we used to fight, and we used to fight at the table. And the best thing you could do during dinner at my house was if you could make fun of somebody hard enough till they cried. And they had a mouthful of food. And if you've never seen somebody cry with a mouthful of food, I mean, it's messed up. Yes, I agree. Secondarily to it being messed up, it is hilarious. Because they can't swallow because they're crying. And they can't cry that good because their mouth is full of food. And so they're, I mean, that was when at my house, that's when you got somebody. When you had them crying with that mouth, you had them, you know, jawed up on a fucking couple grams of Salisbury steak. And they was jawed up on that and running some, you know, half a mouth still full of hot potats, bruh. And then you hit them with a couple of jabs and they started crying. You hit them in the feelings. Because in my household, that was the only way that we showed attention to each other. It was the only time we even spoke to each other, I felt like, when we were kids. And it's unfortunate. I'm not saying that that's a good way to grow up. It wasn't fun. But it was, it was real. And then the time when we enjoyed each other's company, when we were at peace, when we found some solace, when we found some, I remember if the power would go out, I'd be, doing whatever I was doing. I was living in my own world, doing what I wanted to do for me. But then the power went out, and I was scared. I didn't want to be alone. I needed more than just myself then. So we go, and Mom had 2 candles in there. And so we go in there, and that's when, there was a necessity there. It created necessity. And I think it created, with that darkness, even though, we're in our home, I think, even as a mother, I think there's just something innate, something that goes back to what's important about motherhood, and that it grips you in the neck, and you say when the power goes out, where are my children? Where are, these extensions of my body? Where's the rest of me? I'm assuming that's probably what a mother feels sometimes. And so we'd find our mom, and our mom wanted to find us. And then we would all be together, and those candles would be lit, and you couldn't go outside of the glow of those candles because it was, you don't know what was out there. And you wanted to keep tabs on each other, and your body, your nerves were alert. So like, if you were not touching, not being, sensual or being wild, but if you were just touching or tickling each other as children, you were feeling, it was so heightened. And your ears, my nerves would go to my ears, and I could hear. I felt like I could hear the whole world, because I would just be so I needed to hear if anything was coming, and not spraying out. I'm talking an animal or a Voldemort or a falcon or a bad falcon or something dangerous was coming, and I needed to be able to hear. And suddenly my ears just developed these long, capable arms that reached out into the distance and fucking brought in every sound that was around. And I loved that time. I loved it because our family was together at those moments, and we needed each other, and we wanted to be together, and we wanted each other to all be safe, and it was peaceful, and it was so quiet. And that's the quietest I remember it being, was when the power went out. Now, fast forward to now, the power doesn't even go out as much as it used to. Because now we have generators and backup generators, and we got, Big Larry or whatever, who works down at the power plant, who's supposed to make sure he presses this button if the rains come, or whatever. We have all these backups in order. And it's just kind of, I don't know. I miss that peace. Because for somebody like me, who it's hard for me to find peace anyway, to not have it be as readily available as it was due to, technology and due to our attention span. Another thing is just my attention span. Come on. A span, I would barely call it that. I notice if I'm reading, I'll read one paragraph. By the second paragraph, my mind goes off to something else, what did that girl say? Or, man, I haven't seen her in a long time. Or start thinking about sex. I will think directly about some dang beehole, some troubled beehole that I've seen on the internet. Or some set of tits that I've seen on the internet. Immediately, I'm reading a fucking chapter of Mark Twain, dude. And then it's just like, next thing you know, in my mind, I picture Mark Twain, fucking by a fence or something. And the next thing you know, my brain is gone. And I have to recalibrate. Boom, let me get back into this story. And it's just my attention span. It's just a different time. It's a different time. But I like this instrumental that came in here. This was Josh Porter. And he sent this in. And it was called Luchador's Longfellow. That is what the song is called. I'm going to let you catch one more little hit of that right here. Here we go. Hear them heavy tones right there, boy? Sound like somebody's trying to put the moves on a fucking ice cube right there. Like like somebody's trying to just tickle the nipples of an ice cube. So cold, man, and so hot at the same time. Happy Thursday to you guys. I want to tell you guys too, man. I'm gonna tell you about them right now, and that's Gray Block Pizza. And they got them beautiful. They got all kind, the Frenchie. They got these beautiful pizza pies over there. The Frenchie, the Farmer's Delight, the Onion, the Qie, the Caps. Got that portobello oyster, the shiitake mushroom with the Parmesan Fontina Romano. And they got all that at Gray Block Pizza. And their link is on the YouTube. And they're over there at 1811 Pico Boulevard on the way to the beach in Los Angeles. If you're headed to the beach, stop at Gray Block and get that header. Thank you guys for being with us. I want to thank everybody that subscribed on YouTube. Dude, we're up to 21,000 subscribers. And man, I cannot even tell you how, well, to be honest, I feel a couple of things. I feel some pressure, and I know that that's just me. I just, I want, I just want to continue to show up, and help do some things and make this thing bigger and broader. I have some neat ideas that we're going to try and do some fundraising as a group, that I'm going to be contributing to and do some cool stuff. A lot of big ideas, and a lot of those are starting to be able to execute them. And so, but I'm grateful to you guys because this is kind of crazy. Like, I started doing this podcast and I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I still don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about, and I have this horrible shirt on. If you can see on the YouTube, wow, this shirt is really questionable. And it looks, it looks like just like a damn, it looks like a dang semen cloud just busted right up over my house. And I, got batched out, to be honest with you. And that I know is going to be a grody thing for some people to think about, and I'm sorry. And I won't say something like that again. But here's the thing, though. By being a listener, by being a supporter, and there's been, I can't tell you how many nice emails that I've gotten, people just saying thanks and thank you. And here's the thing. By people listening and being a part of this, like, I hate to say this, it might sound a little bit, greedy or egotistical, but it made me come back to do it. Like, if it wasn't for you guys listening, I might have just, might not have gotten out of some of the ruts that I was in because I needed this thing. I needed to come here and have some people to talk to and to think about stuff with. And so I just, man, I really, I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful. This has been a lot of fun. We're going to do a lot of neat things as a group. We're going to do a lot of things that are going to lift people's hearts and lift people's spirits. We're going to start doing some things for some single mothers out there. We're going to do some cool stuff this year. And I just want to thank you. I want to thank everybody on Patreon that's been supportive and everybody that's been listening and subscribing. And, it's just cool. All my life I just, I think I want, I want to do something good. And helpful, and I feel like, dang, sorry, dude, I'm getting a little caught up, but I feel like, this podcast is maybe a way that I can, help do that sometimes. So I'm not saying that I do that. I'm not saying that I think I help. I'm not saying any of that. I just feel like there's moments that we have on here, or that I'll read something that somebody sent, or a comment or something that makes me not think about myself for a little bit. And for me, that's a blessing, because I think I grew up just thinking about myself a lot because I had to take care of myself. And now I don't have to, but I still have to shed some of those old ways, and I still have to get my, I don't think I'm egomaniacal, but I do think sometimes I'm self-centered. But now, man, I'm just trying to get these reins off my shoulders and get that drip out into the world. But we're going to do some cool stuff, and I appreciate you guys' support. What else, man? The Saints game. We're going to talk about a couple things. The Saints game, a lot of you guys were on here with me on Monday's episode when the Saints game hit, and I fell apart. My brother called, and he called because we usually talk after the game, and I guess I hadn't reached out to him, and he called and checked in, and we talked about it on air. And they lost, man. And they lost. And it was, I mean, the next day I literally felt like they won, but they didn't advance, if that makes any sense. And I just felt bad for some of those young guys. And I felt like this. There's the last play, and I think it'll always be one of the stranger plays in NFL football, where Mr. Williams, he's going for the tackle. And Mr. Diggs, he plays on the Minnesota Vikings. He has the ball. And Mr. Williams tries to hit that man, and he misses him completely. But he shouldn't have. And for me, I think this is why it happened. I think it happened because they called 2 really bad penalties on Mr. Williams early in the game. And Mr. Williams, this is his first year in the NFL. And this is his biggest game of his career. If you look back, there couldn't have been a bigger game for this, gentleman. And I think he's an African-American gentleman. He might be, or full black, I don't know, mixed guy, I'm not sure. But he plays defensive back, and I believe he's number 43. And he's had a great year. I almost want to say I don't know if he went to the Pro Bowl, but he's had a great year. And I think that they make those bad calls in the NFL early because they don't let these guys play football anymore. And then by the end of the game, he was nervous. You have these guys nervous to play football. And that's weird because it's football. And I just think sometimes it's like, these guys know they're playing football. Yes, we want to make the game safer for them, but we don't want to make them so nervous to make a play that there aren't any more great plays made. Because the way it should have broke down was that he should have made that tackle and that game should have ended. But he's afraid to touch the guy now because he's already had 2 not good pass interference calls made against him. So you got a scared rookie out there. Just because of the way the play calling, he's worked his whole career to get up to this point. And now just because of the way that the penalties are being called, he's nervous. I just don't think it creates the best product. Now, I think they should make the helmets out of rubber. Make the field out of something a little more cavalier. Maybe denim. Something where these men aren't, they don't have to kill each other, but they can still hit each other. Because a lot of these men are dogs. A lot of these men are Rottweiler, Bichon, jacked up Russell Terrier, aficionado, fucking pit bulls. And they want to attack. So then you have them all, you got this awkward stuff going on there. I feel like there's a lot more anger going on at the end of the play when they're yelling at each other than there is on the field, than there is during the actual plays these days. But yet maybe the NFL is more popular than ever. I don't know. I don't know what the numbers are. But for me, at halftime of that game, I felt like I was watching a really advanced flag football. And maybe that's just what the world is becoming. Maybe we're becoming flag football. I mean, it's hard to be a man. It's hard to be a man. But I'll say this as well, that the thing that consoled me and made me feel better, and I was talking about this on Facebook Live last night, was that watching the videos of the Minnesota Vikings fans. Watching the videos of them feel joy and feel excitement and just the joy. Just them, just elated. Just them to know that a miracle can happen in a second, that something could change. And that made me feel picked up. Because it took me out of me thinking about, my team lost. And still, my team had still lost, but now another team had won. Another group of people were feeling something good. So it made the illness that I was afflicted by, the downs, and I'm not talking Down syndrome, I'm talking about feeling downs in the dumps, down in the dumps. It lifted that a little bit, because if you added those two sums up and divided them by 2, it sets me a little closer to the middle than it does if I'm just down and you divide that by 2. So that's what did it for me. But man, what a season by the Saints. I think Sean Payton got the luckiest draft ever. I think they've had I think his ego's gotten out of control. I don't think he's been the same coach since they won the previous Super Bowl when he got divorced. To me, and this is all speculation, this is all just me being a fan. I love the Saints. But to me, I feel like players respond differently over the years to a married man, a man who's out there and is toeing the line each day and going to work and leading by example. And then he's hobnobbing with these ladies and he's in the club and he's doing the Dougie and all this shit over the years, and I think that changed some of the vibe over there. But it was tough to see. I wanted to see Drew Brees versus Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. I will actually be in Jacksonville this weekend, popping off down there in Jacksonville. And if you ever want to find a dead body, I suggest you go to Jacksonville because it seems like the kind of area where people are straight up H&Cs, you know what I'm saying? Hiding carcasses. And that's a fact, Jack. I used to drive along the interstate when I was young. I used to peek out the window and look for bodies in the distance. And a lot of you guys know I found 2 fingers in the woods when I was young and turned them over to the police. And the man put them in a Ziploc bag and threw them in the trunk of his car and took off. So I haven't found a whole body, but I'll be damned if I haven't found about at least probably maybe 1% of a body. All right, let's get into a little bit more stuff that's going on here. It's hard to be a man these days. It's hard. And I think the toughness for me, especially in Los Angeles, good luck meeting a woman. The best you can hope for these days in Los Angeles is you go out to the club. You don't get in a lawsuit. That's the big thing. Like they should open up a club where it's called NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Everybody signs one before they go in just to know that, if you wink at a woman, she's not going to say you took a swing at her with your eyelashes. Because it's getting wild. I won't even masturbate locally. I refuse to masturbate locally. I'll drive out to Riverside or I'll drive out there near Commerce Casino and, spray out around back of there, around that area. In a, not at a park, in a safer area. But I'm not jerking locally. You're crazy. You are crazy. I'm afraid I'm thinking about getting a bunch of garlic and hanging it up. Because I'm afraid that some woman out there is going to buy a Ouija board and accuse me of trying to, diddle up in her seance zones. So it's tough. It's tough. I think there's probably a lot of men out there who are, getting involved in homosexuality because they're just tired of it. They're like, look, dude, let's go back to your place. Let's both be fucking just blindfold each other and just act like, pretend, maybe play sounds of women in the background or something. I don't know. But it's tough. And you had the big case with Aziz Ansari. We talked about it the other day a little bit. And I get nervous to talk about some of this stuff. And I know I shouldn't. But I'll say this. I could see, when I read this story, I could see this being Aziz-type behavior to me. Aziz is one of the only comedians I've ever met where when I shook his hand, he didn't look at me. He just is like, he seemed to me like he has this vibe about him that he's better than other people, which is fine. Maybe he is in some realms. But, I haven't really, I've the only other comedian that didn't look at me when he shook my hand was Chappelle. And that's fine. Chappelle is, he's really good at what he's a legend. His new special, man, I haven't seen the second hour, but that first hour, it might have saved comedy by him talking about things that just to make words okay to say. But yeah, you had this instance. It was a crazy instance. And then years later, the girl brings it up and it's tough, and I think some women are probably confused about the Me Too. Do I say something? Was it really something? if a woman's only had one sexual experience and it was uncomfortable, but say she had 5 more over the next 2 years, or she's going to have 5 more, and then she'll realize that it wasn't uncomfortable, that it was just her scope of knowing what getting involved with someone was like sexually was limited. But she makes that claim now, and puts someone's name out there, because that's the thing. It's just so damaging. And maybe it was a bad instance that a girl had, but it's just, I think I don't know how you get this right. Because also there's some things out there, because you don't want, it seemed like it was handled, when I read back on this Aziz Ansari situation, it seems like it was handled between the two of them. She texted him the next day and let him know that she felt like she was not appreciated. She felt like he didn't recognize proper signs. And I wouldn't be surprised. It sounds like he didn't. But it also sounds like there were other signs where if you're a man that's in the heat of that beat, that you are not going to be probably as keen to notice them. When a man gets overcome with sensuality, it's almost like somebody takes out a fucking little mallet and starts just beating a mallet at the base of their spine. And then that rattle goes up their back. And that's a sex rattle. And they start wanting to do sex and experience sex and titties and everything. Or even if it overcomes, it's a limbic thing. That arousal, you look in the jungle when a lion see a girl lion in the distance, or a cheetah, or a lynx that's wearing some tight, they have some tight fur on her legs, he perks up. And at that point, when he's perked up, it's tough to notice things. It's tough probably to notice smaller signs. Because the biological foot of the universe that pushes you towards procreation and doing skeet out of your body is already being accelerated. So it's like, it's tough how do we manage that when it is beyond, it's not our choice sometimes. Now, at the point, of course, I'm not saying if a girl or a guy, if you're doing male on male sex, if a man is being, saying he don't want it, he doesn't want it, he's not interested, no, then you need to know that shit. And part of it, a lot of this comes back to people taking responsibility for themselves. No means no. That's easy. That's why it is no. They gave an opposite to no, and it's yes. That's the things. But ladies also, to be so empowered and so in control of yourself, but then to show up and, it sounded from this Aziz story, to stay in an environment where it wasn't the most suited for comfort. I don't know. It just creates, there's a lot of gray area in all this, is what I'm saying. And I feel like a lot of this I've always said goes back to what's going on in these classrooms when people are children and when children are children, those same people. That's what I'm talking about. Because the shit we're teaching each other, the shit we're teaching our kids, I don't give a fuck about most of it. These days, I don't care if my kid can, do times tables past 9. I do care if my kid knows how to share his feelings with someone else. And now I'm not saying share what he thinks, because everybody's doing that shit. Everybody's woke and all this bullshit. And a lot of that is bullshit to me. You want to get really woke? Try and understand what somebody else is going through. I'm just so sick of fucking a hashtag does nothing. It does nothing. You know, there might be some awareness, but what it really does for, you know, if you want to help something, go help it. Donate. You know, I'm just so, it's like, I don't know. I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about, dude. But it's hard. It's tough out there for men. And I can't believe that these aren't the things that we're starting to teach each other, teach children in an education system. Half the people ain't even fucking paying attention in school anyway. So let's get that goo-goo. Let's get into people's juju, you know? Crack open that sternum. Get them aortas thumping. Because when a man gets out there, he needs to know how to be a man. And, you know, with women, there's so much empowerment, so much after-the-fact empowerment. Let's get the empowerment early. Let's get the empowerment. Let's get the Me Too in second grade. And start teaching kids what it's like and what kind of the vibe is like in certain instances. You know, we have such a weird thing about sex here in America. We have such a weird thing about sex. And maybe I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And you know what? That's highly, highly plausible. We had some calls that came in though, man. I'm gonna go through a couple of those a little bit right now. Some neat thoughts, and thank you for hitting the hotline. And that number is 985-664-9503. Here we go.
Hey Theo, this is Kevin from Visalia, California. Just listening to the podcast, I got to the part where you said you paused it before the Saints lost. I'm a Saints fan too, man. So sad. We'll get him again next year. Take it easy.
And you know what? I can't even remember if I already played that call or not. So, but yeah, will we get him next year? It's all there is to say. Because only one team wins it. You know, only one team wins it. And there's still some good teams in it. There's some great fan bases. You know, Philadelphia, great fan base. Minnesota, great fan base. You know, they're going to be out there. It's going to create some good new rivalries. That's exciting. Jacksonville's in there. Dude. Anything is good for Jacksonville. And I'll be there this weekend, actually, at the Comedy Club. So I just want to let you guys know that I'll be in Jacksonville at the Comedy Club this weekend. I will also be, I'll be coming up in Tacoma in March. You can go look at that. It's on the calendar now. And the April dates will be on the calendar this week. A lot of dates popping up on there. Okay, here we go with another call that came in. This was Aubrey. Let's check it.
Hey, Theo. This is Aubrey from Pittsburgh. We've had some fun little Instagram exchanges sometimes, you know, nothing dirty or anything. I'm a dog walker. I listen to you while I'm...
Oh, yeah, Aubrey out there with them bitches, walking dogs. And this is a good line, and this isn't my line. A friend of mine told me this one time. If you see a lady walking a dog, and the dog is a male dog, then you say to the lady, you say, hey, that's a pretty girl you got there. And she says, it's a male. And you say, oh, I was talking to the dog. And then that lets her know that you trying to catch that little dirt. You trying to catch her little dirty frisbee in your mouth. You know what I'm saying? Her. What the fuck am I even talking about? All right, let's go. Here we go.
Walking the old puppies. I listened to today's podcast. A little bit surprised at the exchange with you and Zoe.
And she's talking about Zoe Monroe. And Zoe Monroe, even though she's named after obviously a Civil War general, who also probably stole the name from a Native American, M-U-N-R-O. But Zoe Monroe is a butt actress. She does, all types of butt activities and, tit circus and all of that. Sex artist. Pornography. And that she called in the last week's episode. Onward.
Talking about the dark arts all the time and how much you kind of are sort of against masturbation with the porn and everything. And then to have that, kind of weird. Hey.
Okay, so you're saying it's kind of weird that we had her on, and then also, but those are things I'm against. I agree, and we needed that. We needed to talk to a pornographer to know if it's okay to to pleasure oneself to dead artists. And I've still come to the conclusion I don't think it's cool. I don't think it's cool. And I've also thought that we might get a seancer on here. Someone who does seancers and get in touch with one of the deceased porn artists and see if we can ask them personally and get their word. So if you guys think that's a cool idea or it's a weird idea, whatever, put it in that YouTube into the comments down there, and we'll see kind of what the vibe is on that. Not to continue to discuss porn, but it's tough. And I've landed on the fact that I don't think it's okay to jerk off to the deceased. And I don't think that's crazy. If you're driving down the road and you're jerking off, okay? This is just a hypothesis. You're driving down the road and you are just touching your little fucking long green bean, And that could be your wiener, or could be some ladies got that freaking, they got that tender lima down there, But you're touching that green bean and you see a dead body and it's sexy. It's wearing a bathing suit. You're going to jerk off? No. So that's really where, some of my thoughts come from. But I see what you're saying. We have her we talked to her, and, it's like, well, if we're against the dark arts and we're trying to stay out of our crotch and stay out of, vibing into our dirty pleasures, then why are we discussing things with her? Well, we needed her as a reference. And secondarily, I would not want my sister doing pornography. It would make me feel a certain way. And also wanted to have Zoe just, I guess I just wanted to, also hear her and not just have to talk about sex and just be thinking about, a little bit more of a human take on what's going on sexually. And she said some things that were interesting to me is that what she thinks her job is selling fantasies. And I'd never had it put to me like that before. But that's a lot of what it made it suddenly so obvious to me. Because I would see things in pornography and then hope to catch them out here in the real life. But most of that's fantasy. Most of that's not realistic. No chick is bringing by a pizza and wants to fuck and not even have to get paid for the pizza. That's, most chicks aren't hitchhiking and going to fuck you in your car after they get in. It is fantasy. And I never even realized that. To me, I was just so intent when I would cut it on to seeing the bodies and seeing the angles and the just crotches just attacking each other. Just like a damn, just like the battle of, Bulger. And I was so used to seeing that I wasn't focused on what else was going on, or I couldn't see what else was going on. So it was interesting to hear her take on it. But that's why we needed to have a reference, and so we asked her. Because she still, even though it is tempting to have her around, I didn't go jerk off. I texted with her and said, thank you, and that was it. But I'm sure there's a lot of dudes out there who listen to the podcast who checked in, and next thing they're out there firing, that body sauce out at a whole new internet, staring at that dirty balloon knot and getting a peep at that thing, at that dark wink. And it's out there. And maybe I shouldn't have. And I appreciate you bringing that up, Aubrey. And maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I should have thought more about that. But I wanted to try and, in hindsight, I was seeing maybe this just kind of humanizes what's going on here a little bit more. Okay, I want to discuss a little bit about ZipRecruiter. Say you need somebody to do a job, okay? Say somebody hires you to juggle. You can't juggle, right? But the circus is tomorrow. So what are you going to do? You're going to look for a juggler. Well, now with ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with just one click. It's no more, printing off, juggler needed, and posting those around, and having to cover up missing dog posters just because you need that, that handy ball handler for tomorrow. No, not anymore. ZipRecruiter actively looks for the most qualified candidate and invites them to apply. And that can be anybody from a juggler to a CEO. Whatever your business needs, ZipRecruiter can help. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter.com get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. And you can find out right now why ZipRecruiter has been used by businesses of all sizes and industries for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/TPW. That's right. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/TPW and try it out for free. It's the smartest way to hire. Get that juggler. Yep, that's ZipRecruiter.com/TPW. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/TPW. There's speculation out there that President Donald Trump, paid off a hooker that he allegedly slept with at some point in his life. I don't know if the news stories are true or if they're false. But here's what I don't understand sometimes about the news. Who fucking doesn't think that this occurred? Like, sometimes the news keeps saying shit to me that I'm like, no shit. You think I think he only had sex with one prostitute in his life? No. He's Donald fucking Trump. He's just like all these other, he's just like fucking, I know dudes who have $30 and they've had sex with a hooker. I bet if you looked it up these days, I bet 30% of men in America have had sex with prostitutes. Now I'm not justifying what happened, but certainly if I see Donald Trump, yeah. That's the thing. It's like, people think that this is news. It's not news to who? Like, who doesn't? Who with a real mind in their head looks at Donald Trump and thinks like, he's never had a prostitute. Or he's never paid a woman for a crazy party. Like, I just don't understand sometimes. But I do notice that I look on, if you look on news sites, every politician is now being called a piece of shit. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what party. Doesn't matter what affiliation. All of them. Because what I start to notice is that Hollywood is more powerful these days than politics. Hollywood is our political, it's our politics. The presidents are these people that are running these huge businesses. Those figureheads are obviously have been made by the media to seem more important or better or wiser. And that's where we are now. And you can start to see how, because the media, like these news sites, that's Hollywood. Like, what's happening is the news. What's happening is reality. But the way that it's presented to us by the media, and the media itself that's Hollywood. That's the media. So, and I'm not like becoming some conspiracy theorist. I'm not a dude. I want to check myself before I let something wreck me. And I just started to notice, it's like, man, every story is about and I've never thought politicians were the cat's meow. Like, who believes that anymore? I don't know if you can find a hero, because all these heroes that are always, sold to us, they're not real. They all fail. Because we are mortal. We can try to be heroes, but I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can be to a level that triumphs the value that is out there to pull heroes down. Because there's value in building them up and there's value in building them down. and breaking them down. I mean, in all these, the media, all these websites and the clicks, it's a formula now. Build them up, find something that breaks them down. Then we got the comeback. It's like, it's just, there's a lot out there. It's formulaic now. But I start to see that, the news just beats every politician now. Everyone. And I think it's because that Hollywood, that's the politics these days. They have more power. They have more power than these overall. They're the ones running the show because they are controlling the cameras. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that there's bad stuff out there, that everything's bad. But I'm just saying, to me, you have to have some awareness about that. And I'm happy to be wrong on that too, dude. I could be a fucking weirdo. I really easily could. All right, cool. I want to get into a couple of calls that came in. We had a mother that called last week, and she's raising a son. She's having her second child, and she wanted advice on what to say to her son or how to behave to her son to make him be a better man. But right before we get to that, we had this call that came in. Here we go.
Hey, Theo. I was diving into the dark arts a little bit.
And we've all been there, brother, and you're not a bad guy for doing that. I mean, hell, I practically served them up to you last episode by introducing you to a new receptacle for dark arts. And it's tough out there for all men right now. I won't even jerk off on land usually. I'll go out to a pier, and I'll jerk off a pier. At least that way maybe I catch international water laws or something. But who knows? There's a lady 700 miles away with strong binoculars, and next thing you know, I'm in court. For pleasure of myself out into the ocean. But anyway, onward.
On Christmas time, when your exes come back into town, or you come back into town and start hitting each other up, got a question about when does that stop? Because I'm young, 21. When does that go away that you and your exes stop trying to link up every single holiday?
21, man, I bet you got nice skin on you. And I'm not saying that trying to be wild with you, but I am saying that just to, because at my age, you like seeing nice skin. It's on anything it's on, it's nice. You see some nice skin on a 21-year-old boy, and you're like, oh, he got some nice skin. And I recognize it where I recognize it. But hopefully your question or your thing you're talking about is people coming home from the holidays and hooking up with their exes or, getting in touch and booty call. And look, man, ride that donkey. Okay? Water that pony. Okay? Hay, feed hay to that aardvark. H up that vark because you want to keep this animal alive. Because some of the best times I ever had was coming back from college. And being at home in the summertime and catching you a little bit of local trim, Maybe a girl you knew and now she's graduating and suddenly she got, breasts and she's 18 and you're 19 or 20. And next thing you know, y'all out there just, fucking behind an optometry center somewhere off the interstate. And you're enjoying each other's company. And man, it was fun. And next thing you know, somebody's mom might get divorced, and you might be that man she picks up at the workout fitness center, or she's buying a bag of bread, and next thing you know, you needing them titties, and that kind of stuff can happen, and it's during that time in your life when it happens a lot. I notice when you come back for the summer. Because, people's friends or things have changed and people are changing. They're not sure what's going on and the dust is in the air. And you got to get out there and, you got to ruffle some dust, and that's a good time to do it. That's what I found. So hopefully it doesn't end for you for a while. And that's a good time to throw some lines out in the water because when people haven't seen, high school can really, people put us in these boxes. People put us in these spaces. We put each other in these spaces. We only see each other a certain way. And then after someone's gone away to college and they've come back and you start to see them a little differently or they'll see you a little differently. And there's an opportunity for some romance because you haven't seen each other. You haven't been a part of each other's lives. So you wonder what they have and they wonder what you have. Even if it's just a story or a moment or an experience. There's natural planks there. where you can walk out on your plank and show them a little bit of your wood, and they can walk out on your plank and, show them a little bit of their wood, And you can say, oh, look at this. This is what I've been doing. And they're like, oh, this is what I've been doing. And maybe you just bridge up, and next thing you know, you're making love to some lady out behind a damn fucking Xerox copy center. And you're like, I don't have any protection. And she's like, oh, it doesn't even matter. I had my ovaries taken out. I was in an accident. I had my ovaries taken out. So, make it do what it do. And that happened to me one time back there behind a, I guess it was kind of like a strip mall, but also had some, like a little bit of a recycling center. But that's a great question, man. And I would say ride it as long as you can. Get that summer hit, because I'll tell you this, sober sex is for children. When you're older, man, it's diluted, and there's, you'll be fucking and you can't even get one of your socks off, and somebody's wearing a hat, and there's all kinds of, somebody don't have cologne, or somebody's got had a smoking issue and have a trach pipe or hole, and you can hear the wind whistling in their trach hole. But when you're young, you can have that, so you need drugs and you need alcohol, a little bit of hit to get you through some of that as an adult. But as a kid, man, y'all fresh, y'all young, y'all are rabbits, dude. You could do backflips and you could fucking do whatever you want. You can cultivate that crop. As a kid, you can really get out there and touch each other's ass and people can feel it. So I implore you, if you are young, get out there and do sex. Make it do what it do. Because when you get up here into these middle ages, it's a damn fiasco out here. Somebody got too much cologne on their neck, and next thing you know, you get it in your eye, or perfumes. Woman's cologne for woman. So if you're young and sober, you get out there and do some sex, man. Legal sex. All right, let's take another couple of. We had some callers that hit us up, and this was in response to the young lady that called in last week, mother of two, and she called in and asked for suggestions from some of our listeners as to what are some things I want to instill in my son. And, and I was grateful at that moment because it made me think about that. And then my brother called in, and he and I were able to discuss it a little bit. Just about, some things we would have liked to have had as children. Emotionally, I think, is where some of this stuff landed for us. But here are some other calls that came in, and I want to get to some of those. Here we go.
Hey, Theo, this is Carl from Auburn, California.
Dirty Carl, you out there, huh? Dirty Carl out there, onward.
And I'm calling about the question regarding what mothers can do to kind of set an example. The thing that's most important that spans the evolution of the family household through time is, the mother can set an example for that child to show them what a real woman is and how a real woman acts. That way, when that young man grows to be an adult and he goes and searches for his woman, he has a nice framework of what a real woman's like.
And that's a great point, Carl. I appreciate that. That's Hot Carl out of there. And Hot Carl is a nickname for, actually feces, I think, or it used to be anyway, and I hope it's not anymore, Carl, because I didn't, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't even have brought that up. But it used to be when I was younger, and I think that's gone out of time, so I probably shouldn't have, re-brought that up. But I don't think about you that way. Yeah, so that's one thing you can, so as a mother you can show by example, be an example for, I think just having that connection, because then your child at the very least is going to want to have a connection with the woman he seeks. I'm sure it's got to be scary, especially these days, because I think the parents should feel a responsibility for the value of somebody they put in the world. Because I have a feeling that there's going to start to be an evolution into like merit-based living. Because one of the big problems we have these days are people that just don't want to be better. They don't want to be contributing members of society for just whatever reasons. And I think that there's going to, hopefully there'll be some correction in that world. Will there be some merit-based society where who you are as a person somehow becomes quantifiable and that there's value there? I could easily see that. I feel like we're on the cusp of a huge evolution, I think, emotionally. And that's pretty exciting, bro. You know? We out in them fucking emotional streets. Thanks for that call, Carl. Onward. Okay, let's listen to this call right here. Here we go.
Hey, Theo, this is Brandon calling from San Diego.
What's up, Brandon? From San Diego, boy. That's down there in the Dub B, boy, that Wales butthole.
I'm calling about the mom who was concerned about how to raise her son, and this is relevant to me, and I just wanted to put this out there.
Okay, thanks for calling. More?
My 2 cents. You know, the mother, I think that's really important for them to be there emotionally for their kids, especially their sons, because sometimes they don't get that from the father's side.
That's true, especially if they don't have if there's a father not in the household, then, you know, that's a lot of pressure on the mother because she's playing 2 roles now. And if your mother doesn't have schizophrenia or she's not, you know, probably a transvestite or something, that can be probably even more tough. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not, that's not a joke. I'm saying that could be, it's probably easier for some of those people. More?
The mother should be empathetic and kind of in there for their son in emotional regard, because if they're not, you know, there's a time when my mom was kind of disconnected from that for me, and I think later on in life I seek that out, you know, in girlfriends and relationships and stuff. Like,
Yep, and I'm gonna stop you right there, and I appreciate your call, Brandon, but I'm gonna say that too. I mean, I was in a relationship when I was young, and I remember it was like, I guess, one of the first times I was really in love. You know, and that young love is fucking powerful. Dude, when you're in love and you're young, you could start a truck with your fucking tongue. I mean, you could power a damn building with your just with the salt on your breath. Because there's nothing, I mean, you are so hopped up on hormones. You know, you could spit into a cat's mouth and knock it up. And I remember, yeah, you know, I had issues from growing up with my mother, and then I met a girl and we fell in love, and I remember when she broke up with me, I remember, dude, all my shit gets always freaking oddly emo, but I remember thinking that I'd lost my mother. You know, and that's when I realized, yeah, I got some stuff there. You know, I got some issues there where, you know, I'm looking for connections with women that are supposed to be filled when I was younger. And I think a lot of these things go back to the fact that, you know, nobody's taking care of children. Nobody's at home with them. There's not a family anymore. You know, that's all. And that's one of the things that I don't like sometimes, or that one of the things that I question about some goals of feminism. A lot of times it's used as a marketing tool just to get women, you know, to sell them shit, just like everything else. You know, it's all like, yeah, you buy this book, you know, next thing you know, you have a woman who wanted to have a family. Next thing you know, she's 42 years old. She has no kids. She started a small business somewhere off the interstate, and she's fucking furious and miserable at her life because she was led astray by by some of the darker sides of some of the feminist evolution. And I'm not saying that for everything, but I'm saying that is a reality, and that's going to be a reality that for some, and that's going to be a reality that's going to be out there. Let's hear some more. Here we go.
What's up, Theo? My name's Eric Giepert. I'm calling from Virginia.
Thank you for calling from Virginia, sir. Onward.
I'm originally from Louisiana.
Oh, you from that dirt, huh? From that boot. And we appreciate your service here vocally. Onward.
I'm calling about the girl with the question about her son. Biggest and most important things that you can instill in a child. Mm-hmm. I think it makes you better at so many things. You know, you're a better lover for the ladies. You're a better fighter when you need to be. I just think it makes you a better person overall. It builds character.
I wonder if something made me passionate when I was young. Man, I'm stumped. I got nothing for that, man. But I appreciate that thought. Passion, ladies. Put that passion in your boy. And nothing illegal. You know what I'm saying? Stay out of that family sexual zone. Nothing sensual with the family. You know what I'm saying? I've always known that. My number one rule, if you think it's incestual, remember this. If you rearrange the letters of sister, it spells resist. And you could take that to the bank. Here we go.
Theo Von. Man, this is Stephen up in Lexington, Kentucky.
Stephen up in Lexington. Stephen. Let's go.
Fellow Southern man. Calling in response to the lady that wanted to know about how to raise a young man into a real, and I got one comment, and I think you'll understand it being from the South.
Okay, let's get to that, Stephen, and thank you for the call.
The best thing a mom can do is love unconditionally, but most importantly, be her son's number one confidant in the world and a very good friend. And the reason I say that is I guarantee you meet a man who's close to his mother, and you meet a man who treats women well.
It's interesting. You know, I think this is all new territory for me, and how, you know, seeing how people treat, noticing how people treat their mothers and stuff. I was so unaware of some of the value of that connection. I didn't really notice it going on around me. But that's interesting, yeah. I mean, there was times when I didn't treat my mother well. That's for sure. You know, when I was probably embarrassed of her for things, or ashamed, or, you know, and now I just want her to be happy. You know, it's crazy. Like now it's like I almost have to let go of any issues that were there between us, whether she knew about them or not. And, you know, I think the biggest issue I noticed growing in my own life was that my mother never seemed happy, and I wanted her to be happy. And I couldn't make her happy. You know, and I didn't even notice it as a child. I just knew she wasn't happy. And so I felt like that was, for some reason, my fault. Because in a child's world, everything revolves around them. So if something's wrong, they think that it's their fault. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, they have to have it that way to survive. The world just revolves around them. You know, a fucking 4-year-old ain't thinking about his buddy, you know, or thinking about how his mom's day went, you know. And you just, you know, I remember as a child I remember as an adult now thinking back that all I wanted was my mother to be happy. And I realize now that since I couldn't make her happy when I was young, it made me feel like something was wrong with me. And I think that's a good point. If you can establish that confidence with your kids, and it might be tough probably. I bet that's tough, ladies, to, you know, be able to break down those barriers and talk about things direct with your child, you know, with a boy. You know, and I wish you single mothers out there well with that sort of journey, because that's got to be tough. Because, you know, I bet as a mother, you just want them to be, you know, you're instinctually, you want them to be happy and fed and home and safe and warm. And then it's hard probably to have the time and the ability to go beyond that and discuss and get into things where, you know, that probably almost feel like they're out of your role, especially if there's not another man to be around, if there's not a man to be around to do that. So I commend you moms out there doing that. All right, guys, I think that's actually a pretty good place to pull up the anchor right here. I got to go do a set tonight at the Comedy Store. Mr. Joe Rogan will be up there, and Christina Pazitsky, and Brian Callen, and a couple of other comedians. I want to be able to spend time with them. You can check out the dates on theovon.com/tour. And yeah, I think it's just, you know, there's a lot of pressure on men right now. And then I bet that there's a lot of pressure on mothers to make better men. And then there's this outside you know, and then there's this vibe out there that's saying women should even just be doing things on their own, that they don't even need men. And I don't know how those all fit together well. I don't know how you're supposed to learn to treat a woman if your mom isn't even at home, or your father isn't even at home. You know, when we've created a vibe where, you know, both parents have to work, or an environment, a society. You know, I don't know how, you know, we expect people to know so much when we keep distancing ourselves connection-wise. You know, whether it be being on the phone, or, you know, being away being on these iPads or whatever. And we're all, I mean, how long till we're all in these addictive meetings for phone? You know? What happened to you, Larry? You know, it was that fucking update. That Microsoft Sea Lion, or the Mac OS X Sea Lion update, and I've never been the same. It's just like it's just like we've created this society where we don't have a family to help us be better or to help us learn or to learn any of these skills anymore, how to treat each other. Marriages are, it's all becoming extinct. It's all like this singular you do it. You don't need someone else. And then we wonder why people are growing up and don't know how to even be around other people or don't know how to treat them, or why a guy, treats a woman like an animal, or why a woman feels like she got treated like an animal, or why a woman stays in an environment when a guy is mistreating her, or why a woman feels afraid to talk about what happened to her. It's just, I just think I don't know if what we want innately and what we really want in our hearts is what we are, is the world that we're creating, or the world that we're letting be created by people that control it. I don't know. It's wild. It's wild, dude. It is wild. But I appreciate you guys being here with me, and happy Thursday to you guys. And I want to thank everyone. We got to 21,000 subscribers on YouTube. If we get up to 30,000, man, I'm going to do something special for you guys. I'll put out a comedy clip you haven't seen or do something special. So thank you guys so much. Hit the hotline if you have any questions or thoughts or suggestions. Any constructive criticisms as well for me. I'm always open to them. That number is 985-664-9503. And if you have, and I'm not trying to be right in anything we're talking about. I'm just trying to talk about it. And I appreciate so much the community that we're creating here online. And you guys be good. Be good to yourselves. You probably deserve it. You know that, huh? Here we go. That's Luchador's Longfellow, Josh Porter. Maybe if you have a lady over, just put this on. And just look at each other for a little while. See what the vibe is. I bet you get a vibe you can trust if you got something beautiful like this going on in the background. I bet you'll get a classy vibe going on, or something real. I bet you'll make a bridge you can trust. Y'all be good.